Today we're going to be making the rice and raisins, which is a part of one of the 4 feast foods that are presented in a traditional feast. As always, when we visit our elders, whether we're asking for guidance or asking for knowledge, asking for teachings, we are going to present protocol, which is tobacco. I've made a tobacco tie for us to present. This is a very important step to acknowledge the transfer of knowledge and the transfer of tradition and culture. And so on behalf of Red Deer Catholic Regional Schools, the First Nation Métis Inuit support team, and we would like to offer Elder Corky our protocol for the feast teachings.
I'll accept. I'll try my very best today. Red Cloth Woman is what I go by. I also go by Corky in the community. Really happy to be sitting beside Jaden, who I've sat beside before. And you're a young woman in our community who's doing good. I can see when I talk to you that you have a very good sense of yourself, a very good sense of what's right and wrong. I think one day you're going to do very good work for your community and your family if you choose to have one. So the feast foods, there's 4 main feast foods, sometimes 5. Maybe you go into a different territory, there'll even be more. So, but today we're going to do the rice and raisins, which is really one of the most, probably the easiest one to do. And the old people really, really like it. So we're going to smudge up, because before you make any feast food, there is protocol. And the first important one is that a woman who's on her moon time would pull back from making the feast food. So you have to be very clean spiritually when you make a feast food. You can't be grumpy. You can't be mad. You can't do that, because you're not only feeding your community after it's been prayed with, you're feeding the ones we can't see. Our spirits, our guardian angels, our ancestors, the ones who walked here. And before we start, we're going to do what all women do when we get together in a circle, especially before the feast food. We'll smudge up. Okay, so we stopped to do our smudging ceremony. There's no getting around that part. That's something that it starts with. All the feast foods will start in prayer. Also, all the feast foods are cooked on the same day of the feast. There's rules that we cannot taste it once we started smudging and start cooking it. We can't even sample it, because it becomes a sacred food that the person who's leading the feast will pray with, offer it to the ancestors. Once that mushroom or kokum is finished praying and sets his pipe down and then lifts his plate of food up, then we can all eat. So we have our pot. It's already getting very hot. So usually we go about how much rice you use. We use twice as much water. We're using long grain rice. It's one of the food Indigenous people immediately started using in some of their own recipes. Before, it would have been wild rice or other things that were found on the land. The reason rice has become a part of this is because it's dry, it can be transported, and it can feed a lot of people. And that's the important thing at a feast. We want to make sure everybody at the feast gets a little bit. You to come now and take care of the soup. So some people will also add their raisins now. Some people will add it after. It doesn't matter. So I want you to know also, with the feast foods, they're really plain, because long time ago our ancestors couldn't go to Safeway and buy Montreal steak spice and garlic, and they ate very healthy. And they had to work very hard to get their food. Their food was a lot of protein and a lot of fat. And it worked for them. It worked for the Indigenous people because they worked so hard at the same time, gathering or putting up a teepee. This is hard. To put up a teepee is exhausting. It worked for them. It kept them going. They were high energy foods. It was only when things got out of balance that we didn't work as hard to get our food. We didn't go out on the land every day to get our food, that it started to kind of work against us, you know, especially with sugar. And I try not to use sugar when I make any feast foods, but I'll try to use honey first for sweetener. And a lot of our old people love sweet, you know, and we don't. It's not about using a whole lot. Putting a little extra love into it, I guess, for our ancestors, those ones that have already gone on to heaven. In Cree, the word for bee is amo, which is very close to the word for love. The bee is actually a very, very strong little spirit in our ways. So when you use something that is very strong, it's kind of like you're transferring a little bit of that magic or a little bit of that gift into our food. Okay, other people will put dry meat into the rice and raisin soup, which will even give it even more of a protein hit. Cooking with Corky and Jaden. Rice soup is coming along swimmingly. So we're going to add our raisins now. So instead of using sugar, you could even use a little bit of jam. I do believe Jaden has made a beautiful rice and raisin soup.